In the grim darkness of the far future, there are fates that transcend death, horrors that mock even the Emperor's mercy. Among the countless tragedies that unfold across a million war-torn worlds, few compare to the nightmare of a captured Space Marine dreadnought. Today, we descend into one of the darkest corners of the galaxy's endless war, exploring what happens when the savage greenskin hordes of the Orks manage to capture one of the Imperial Fist's most revered warriors, a hero entombed within a walking sarcophagus of ceramite and adamantium, a dreadnought. The sacred nature of the dreadnought. Before we can understand the true horror of capture, we must first comprehend what a dreadnought represents to the Space Marines, and particularly to the stoic sons of Rogel Dawn. A dreadnought is not simply a war machine. It is not merely a weapons platform or an armored walker. It is a living shrine, a breathing monument to sacrifice and duty that continues long past the point where mercy should have intervened. When a Space Marine suffers wounds so catastrophic that even their enhanced physiology cannot sustain them, when their body is shattered beyond the repair capabilities of the chapter's apothecaries, they face a choice. For most warriors, death would be a release, an end to suffering, and a passage to the Emperor's side. But for those few deemed exceptional, for heroes whose tactical knowledge and battlefield wisdom are simply too valuable to lose, the chapter offers something different. Not life, exactly, but continued service. They offer the dreadnought. The process of internment is both medical miracle and living nightmare. The Marine's broken body is carefully dissected by tech Marines and apothecaries working in concert. Everything unnecessary is removed with surgical precision. Limbs that can no longer move are severed. Organs that have failed are excised. What remains is reduced to the absolute minimum required to sustain consciousness. A torso, perhaps. The brain, certainly. Critical organs floating in life-sustaining amniotic fluid within an armored sarcophagus barely larger than a coffin. Then comes the true transformation. Neural interfaces are driven directly into the Marine's brain tissue. Sensory implants replace eyes that can no longer see, ears that can no longer hear. The Mind Impulse Unit, a relic technology dating back to the dark age of technology, creates a permanent bridge between organic consciousness and machine systems. The Marine's nervous system is effectively rewired, their sense of self expanded to encompass tons of ceramite, adamantium, and weapon systems that could level buildings. For the Imperial Fists, this process carries particular weight. The Sons of Rogel Dawn are known throughout the Imperium as masters of defense, as warriors who hold the line when others would break. Their Primarch fortified the Imperial Palace itself during the darkest days of the Horus Heresy, and his Gene Sons have inherited his unyielding nature. To be interred within a dreadnought is seen as the ultimate expression of this philosophy, a chance to serve beyond death, to hold the line for centuries or even millennia beyond a normal lifetime. The Imperial Fists maintain their dreadnoughts in the deepest vaults of their fortress monastery aboard the Phalanx, their massive, mobile space fortress. These vaults are sacred spaces, tended by tech Marines who perform daily rituals of maintenance and preservation. Each dreadnought is anointed with sacred oils, its systems carefully monitored, its machine spirit placated with prayers and incense. When not in battle, the entombed warriors sleep, their consciousness held in a state of suspended animation that can last decades or even centuries between awakenings. These ancient warriors serve multiple roles within the chapter. In battle, they are walking fortresses, capable of weathering fire that would obliterate lesser troops while delivering devastating firepower in return. Their weapons range from assault cannons that can shred infantry formations to lascannons that can pierce the armor of enemy tanks. Some carry massive power fists capable of tearing through reinforced bunkers, while others wield heavy flamers that can cleanse entire corridors of enemies. But their value extends beyond simple firepower. Each dreadnought contains the consciousness of a warrior who may have fought in battles centuries or even millennia past. They carry institutional memory, tactical knowledge, and strategic insights that would otherwise be lost to time. Chapter masters consult them on matters of doctrine. Captains seek their counsel before major campaigns. To the younger battle brothers, they are living legends, connections to the chapter's glorious past made tangible. The Imperial Fists have fielded dreadnoughts since their founding, and some of their most ancient warriors have served in this capacity for over 10,000 years. These venerable machines are walking archives of the chapter's history, bearing witness to countless battles, the rise and fall of empires, and the slow grinding progress of the Imperium's wars. They have seen heroes rise and fall, watched entire generations of battle brothers live and die, and continued their lonely vigil through ages that would break lesser warriors. This context is crucial to understanding what makes their capture so catastrophic. A dreadnought is not just military hardware. It is sacred to the chapter in ways that transcend mere sentiment. It represents an eternal oath, a promise that service to the Emperor never ends. To lose a dreadnought is to lose a piece of the chapter's soul, a fragment of its living history. And to have one captured by Xenos, by the savage and brutal Orks, is a violation that strikes at the very heart of everything the Imperial Fists hold sacred. The moment of capture. The circumstances that lead to a dreadnought's capture are almost always catastrophic. These walking fortresses are not easily overcome, and under normal circumstances, their destruction is far more likely than their capture. But the Orks are nothing if not unpredictable, and in the chaos of a full wah, the impossible can become reality. Picture a battlefield somewhere in the Imperium's war-torn frontiers. The Imperial Fists have deployed in response to an Ork invasion, their yellow and black heraldry standing in stark contrast to the green tide that threatens to overwhelm an entire sector. The fighting has been brutal, lasting weeks or perhaps months, and the Orks have proven more numerous and better organized than initial intelligence suggested. This is not a simple raid or a minor incursion. This is a full-scale whack, led by a particularly cunning or powerful warboss whose presence has unified dozens of disparate Ork tribes into a cohesive, if chaotic, fighting force. In the thick of combat, an Imperial Fist's dreadnought advances through the ruins of what was once an Imperial city. Perhaps it is a venerable dreadnought, its pilot having served the chapter for centuries. Its weapons systems are fully engaged, its assault cannon a constant roar as it tears through wave after wave of Ork boys. Its power fist crushes the crude armor of Ork vehicles like tin cans. Around it, tactical squads of Imperial Fists maintain formation, using the dreadnought as a mobile strongpoint from which to anchor their defensive line. But the Orks have numbers that defy comprehension. For every greenskin that falls, two more seem to take its place, bellowing their crude war cries and firing wildly with an enthusiasm that compensates somewhat for their poor marksmanship. And among the tide of boys are heavier assets. Def Dreads, the Ork equivalent of Space Marine dreadnoughts, stomp forward on crude hydraulic legs, their weapons adding to the cacophony of battle. Battle wagons, massive ramshackle vehicles bristling with guns and boarding planks, plow through debris and bodies alike. The turning point comes when the Imperial Fist's formation is disrupted. Perhaps a coordinated artillery strike from Ork Lobos creates confusion in the Imperial lines. Perhaps a hidden force of commandos, led by a particularly sneaky nob, emerges from an unexpected angle. Or perhaps the sheer weight of numbers simply overwhelms the defensive position. Whatever the cause, the dreadnought suddenly finds itself separated from its supporting infantry, an island of resistance surrounded by a sea of green. The ancient warrior fights on, of course. Surrender is not a concept that exists in the Imperial Fist's vocabulary, and the entombed Marine has centuries of combat experience to draw upon. His assault cannon continues to sing its deadly song, each burst dropping multiple orcs. His power fist swings in wide arcs, pulverizing anything foolish enough to approach. For a time, it seems as though the Dreadnought might carve its way back to friendly lines through sheer determination and firepower. But the Orks are learning, adapting with the instinctive tactical cunning that their kind possesses. A big mech, one of the Orks' crude but effective engineers, identifies the Dreadnought's ammunition feeds as a vulnerability. Rockets begin targeting these specific points, not trying to penetrate the heavy frontal armor, but rather to damage the supply systems that keep the weapons functioning. An assault cannon that cannot feed ammunition is just a very expensive club. Then come the tank busters, Orks who specialize in destroying heavy armor, and who approach this task with manic enthusiasm. They close in from multiple directions, their rockets and specialized weapons designed specifically to crack open the toughest targets. The Dreadnought's void shields flare and collapse under the sustained barrage. Armor plating, even the blessed ceramite and adamantium of Space Marine construction, begins to buckle and crack. A particularly lucky shot, or perhaps one guided by the crude psychic gestalt field that surrounds all Orks, finds its mark. The Dreadnought's primary weapon system suffers a catastrophic failure, the assault cannon seizing up as critical components are destroyed. The ancient warrior continues fighting with his remaining weapons, but the tide has turned decisively against him. What happens next requires a specific set of circumstances. Normally, the Orks would simply continue their assault until the Dreadnought was reduced to scrap. But in this moment, several factors align. The big mech who has been coordinating the attack suddenly has a realization, his primitive but functional mind grasping a possibility that excites him. This isn't just any enemy war machine. This is something special, something that could be looted, studied, and perhaps even repurposed. The mech begins bellowing orders in the crude Ork tongue, trying to direct the mob's fury away from total destruction. It's like trying to redirect a tidal wave with hand signals, but the authority of a big mech carries weight among the Orks. Enough of them understand the potential value of what they have cornered. Capture means loot, and loot is one of the few things Orks value as much as a good fight. Gretchen, the smaller and more numerous cousins of the Orks, are sent swarming forward with specialized equipment, crude grappling hooks and chains, massive electromagnets salvaged from Imperial vehicles, and thick cables that could restrain even a Dreadnought's massive strength. The ancient warrior continues to struggle, his remaining power fist crushing several unfortunate Gretchen who get too close, but the sheer numbers begin to tell. A particularly massive knob, perhaps clad in mega armor, that gives him strength approaching the Dreadnought's own, closes in with a power claw specifically designed for ripping apart Imperial armor. This knob has learned from watching Dreadnoughts in combat. He knows where the leg joints are, the specific points where even blessed ceramite has weaknesses. Savage blow severs critical hydraulics in one leg, and the Dreadnought crashes to its knees. Inside the sarcophagus, the entombed Marine experiences a nightmare beyond anything his long service has prepared him for. The neural feedback as his legs, such as they are, fail sends shockwaves through his consciousness. He tries to trigger emergency protocols, attempting to activate self-destruct sequences that would deny the enemy their prize, even at the cost of his own existence. But the damage is too extensive. Systems that should respond to his will remain stubbornly silent, or respond with error messages that scroll across his internal displays in cascading failure. More chains, more Gretchen, more crude but effective restraints pile onto the fallen Dreadnought. Mech boys arrive with specialized tools, plasma cutters and power tools that can penetrate even Space Marine armor. They begin working with surprising care, understanding at some instinctive level that they want to preserve what they're capturing. The remaining weapon systems are physically disabled, not destroyed. Power feeds are cut but not severed. The sarcophagus itself, the heart of the Dreadnought, where the Marine's broken body floats in amniotic fluid, is carefully isolated from the rest of the systems. The sounds that filter through to the entombed warrior are nightmarish. the harsh voices of orcs barking orders in their brutal language, the screech of cutting tools against ceramite, the rumble and clank of heavy machinery being brought forward, probably a salvage claw, or perhaps a modified lifter-dropper, one of the orcs' gravity manipulation devices. The sensation of movement as the Dreadnought is lifted, no longer under its own power, but suspended by crude orc technology. The last thing the Marine sees before his external sensors are disabled is a crowd of orcs gathering around, their brutal faces split by savage grins, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of triumph and anticipation. Then the visual feeds cut to static, and the warrior who has served the Emperor for centuries finds himself isolated, cut off from the outside world, a prisoner in his own metal tomb. The Orc response. To understand what happens next, we must delve into the Orc psyche, alien and brutal, yet possessing its own peculiar logic. The Orcs are not mindless brutes, despite what Imperial propaganda might suggest. They are a species genetically engineered for war, created during the ancient war in heaven as weapons by the Old Ones. Every Orc possesses instinctive knowledge of combat, and among certain specialized castes, an innate understanding of technology that would take human engineers decades to acquire. The moment the Dreadnought is secured, a change comes over the Orc mob. The immediate bloodlust of combat begins to ebb, replaced by a different kind of excitement. They have won a prize, and in Orc culture, prizes are to be celebrated, argued over, and ultimately fought over to determine rightful ownership. Several mech boys immediately begin claiming credit for the capture, each insisting that his particular contribution was the deciding factor. A particularly large and aggressive mech, his body more metal than flesh after decades of augmentation, establishes temporary dominance through the simple expedient of smashing anyone who disagrees with a massive power claw. This mech, let's call him Zagbolt, though his actual name would be an unpronounceable collection of guttural sounds, has been building and tearing apart machines for longer than most Orcs in the warband have been alive. He knows opportunity when he sees it. Zagbolt circles the restrained Dreadnought like a predator assessing prey, though in this case, the assessment is that of an engineer evaluating a new project. His crude, augmented eyes, a mix of Orc bionic and scavenged Imperial optics, scan every detail of the captured machine. He notes the thick armor plating, the sophisticated servo systems that allow such a massive construct to move with surprising agility, the weapon hardpoints that could mount an array of devastating armaments. But what truly captures Zagbolt's attention is the central sarcophagus. Through damaged armor plating, he can see the armored coffin where the Space Marine pilot resides. This is something beyond the mech's usual experience. Orc Def Dreads have pilots, certainly, but they are crude things. Orcs permanently wired into their machines through painful surgery. This Imperial technology is different, more sophisticated, maintaining not just life, but apparently some level of comfort and sustainability over extended periods. Orders are barked in the harsh Orc tongue. Gretchen scramble to obey, bringing tools and equipment. A massive transport arrives, probably a looted Imperial vehicle that has been Orcified beyond recognition, its original purpose subsumed beneath layers of crude but functional modifications. The Dreadnought is loaded onto this transport with surprising care, Zagbolt threatening to personally smash any Orc whose enthusiasm risks damaging his prize. The journey back to the Orc base of operations is a nightmare for the entombed Imperial Fist. His external sensors have been disabled, leaving him in near-complete sensory isolation. He can feel movement through the Dreadnought's internal gyroscopes and accelerometers, sense the vibration of the transport's engine through his neural connections, but he has no visual reference, no way to determine where he is being taken or what is happening outside his metal prison. He attempts to catalog the damage, running diagnostic subroutines through systems that only partially respond. Life support is stable, thankfully, the amniotic fluids that preserve his broken body still circulating properly. But everything else reads as compromised or completely non-functional. His weapon systems are offline, Locomotion systems have been physically disabled. Even the self-destruct sequences remain frustratingly unresponsive. Time becomes meaningless in the darkness. Is the transport moving for hours or days? Without external input, without the normal sleep cycles that the Dreadnought systems would regulate, the Marine's sense of duration becomes warped and unreliable. He focuses on prayer, reciting the litanies of fortitude and the oaths of the Imperial fists, drawing strength from traditions that stretch back 10,000 years to the time of the Primarch himself. The transport finally stops, and new sounds filter through the sarcophagus's limited audio sensors. The babble of countless Ork voices, the clank and roar of heavy machinery, the crackle of poorly shielded power systems, and the screech of metal being cut or welded. This is an Ork workshop, a place where the Greenskin's crude but effective technology is created, maintained, and constantly modified. The Dreadnought is unloaded and positioned in what seems to be a place of prominence. The Marine can hear Orks gathering around, their voices rising in excitement and speculation. Zagbolt's voice rises above the others, barking orders and threats in equal measure. Work begins almost immediately, and the entombed warrior braces himself for what is to come. The mech boys begin their work. Ork technology is a paradox that has baffled Imperial scholars for millennia. By all rights, it should not work. Their weapons are crude assemblies of scavenged parts, held together with poor welding and an alarming lack of standardization. Their vehicles routinely violate basic principles of engineering and physics, and yet, they work. They work because the Orks believe they work. Their collective psychic gestalt field subtly warping reality to match their expectations. Mech boys are Orks who possess an innate understanding of this principle, though they themselves would never articulate it in such terms. They are born with knowledge coded into their genetic structure, legacy programming from the old ones who created their ancestors. A mech looks at a pile of scrap and instinctively understands how the pieces can fit together, what functions they can serve, and how to make them operate. Zagbolt approaches the captured Dreadnought with the excitement of an artist presented with a new medium. He has worked with looted Imperial vehicles before, of course. Battle wagons built on Lehman Russ chassis, trucks incorporating parts from rhinos, even a particularly impressive project involving a salvaged Predator tank. But a Dreadnought is something special, a prize that will elevate his status among the warband and perhaps attract the attention of the warboss himself. The first order of business is examination. Zagbolt circles the Dreadnought repeatedly, his augmented vision picking out details that lesser Orks might miss. He notes the weapon mounts, already planning how Orky weapons could be fitted to replace the damaged Imperial systems. He studies the leg joints, understanding that these articulation points represent both strength and potential weakness. His hands, more metal than flesh, run over the armor plating, feeling the quality of the ceramite, the sophisticated composite materials that the Imperium uses. Other mech boys gather to assist or simply to observe and learn. In Ork society, knowledge is not hoarded, but shared through direct demonstration. Younger mechs, their bodies less augmented and their understanding less refined, watch as Zagbolt begins issuing instructions. Gretchen are sent scurrying for tools, specific implements that Zagbolt has modified for his own use over years of tinkering. The external armor is carefully removed, panel by panel. This is not the brutal salvage operation that might be expected from Orks, but something approaching genuine care. Zagbolt wants to understand how this machine works before he begins modifying it. Each piece of armor is examined, its mounting points noted, its composition tested with crude but effective tools. As the outer layers come away, the Dreadnought's internal systems are gradually exposed. The mech's excitement grows as they see the sophistication of Imperial engineering. Servo systems that respond to neural impulses with millisecond precision. Power distribution networks that can redirect energy to damaged areas automatically. Cooling systems that prevent weapons from overheating even during sustained fire. For the entombed Marine, This process is a unique form of torture. He can feel every cut into his body, not as pain exactly, but as violation. The Dreadnought is his body now, has been for decades or centuries, and having it disassembled by Xenos feels like being flayed alive while conscious. He attempts to maintain his mental fortitude, reciting battle prayers and focusing on his training, but the psychological strain is immense. Zagbolt's attention eventually focuses on the sarcophagus itself. This is the heart of the mystery, the component that most fascinates him. Through the damaged outer armor, he can see the armored coffin, can perceive the amniotic fluids that preserve the pilot, can detect the neural interfaces that create the connection between man and machine. This is technology beyond anything the Orks routinely employ, even accounting for their own deaf dreads. The mech makes a decision. He will keep the Space Marine alive. Not out of mercy, certainly not from any sense of compassion, but because the living pilot represents the key to truly understanding how this machine operates. Ork deaf dreads work because the pilot is permanently wired in, his mind becoming one with the machine through crude but effective surgery. This Imperial system is more elegant, more sophisticated, and Zagbolt wants to understand it. Gretchen are dispatched to acquire specific components. Medical equipment, such as the Orks possess, which mostly consists of tools used by painboys, the Ork equivalent of surgeons. Power sources to keep the sarcophagus's life support functioning even when disconnected from the Dreadnought's main systems. Monitoring equipment, salvaged from various Imperial sources and orkified to the point where only someone familiar with their modifications could read the displays. The sarcophagus is carefully isolated from the rest of the Dreadnought's systems. Power feeds are cut, but immediately replaced with Ork equivalents, crude cables that nonetheless successfully carry the necessary electrical current. The amniotic fluid circulation is maintained, though the mechs add their own improvements, chemical additives that they believe will keep the human alive longer, though what these substances actually are remains a mystery even to them. Throughout this process, Zagbolt maintains a running commentary in the Ork tongue, explaining his reasoning to the gathered mechs and Gretchen. He points out clever aspects of the Imperial design, notes where Ork engineering could improve upon, or simply replicate the functionality, and occasionally grunts in approval when he encounters a solution that even he finds elegant. The other mechs begin forming theories about how to proceed. One suggests simply stripping out all the Imperial components and replacing them with Ork equivalents, building essentially a new war machine around the captured sarcophagus. Another proposes keeping most of the Imperial systems intact, but adding Orky weapons and armor, a hybrid that would combine the sophistication of human engineering with the raw power of greenskin innovation. A third, more ambitious plan involves studying the neural interface technology with an eye toward improving Ork deaf dread designs. Arguments break out, as they inevitably do among Orks. Voices are raised, threats are made, and occasional violence erupts before Zagbolt restores order through the simple expedient of being bigger and more heavily armed than anyone willing to challenge him. The big mech makes his decision. They will attempt a full Orkification of the Dreadnought, replacing damaged systems with Ork equivalents, while trying to maintain the basic functionality that makes the machine so effective. Inside his sarcophagus, the Imperial Fist listens to the incomprehensible babble of Ork speech, trying to pass meaning from tone and cadence, even though the words themselves are alien. He knows that his life hangs by a thread, dependent entirely on whether the Orks can keep his life support functioning while they tear apart and rebuild his body. It is a helplessness that galls him, a warrior who has known nothing but battle for centuries, suddenly reduced to a passive observer of his own violation. The Marine attempts to reach out through the Dreadnought systems, trying to activate any functionality that remains under his control. Perhaps a simple audio broadcast, a way to communicate and possibly negotiate, though the thought of bargaining with Xenos is repugnant. But every system he tries to access returns the same result: offline, disconnected, or simply unresponsive. The Orks have been thorough in their dismantling of his ability to control his own body. He considers his options, limited as they are. He could attempt to shut down his own life support, using the biofeedback control that all Dreadnought pilots maintain to some degree. Death would be preferable to whatever the Orks have planned, and it would deny them their prize. But the conditioning of decades, the oaths he swore when he was first interred, the duty that has sustained him through centuries of service, all resist this course of action. An Imperial fist does not surrender, not even to death, while there remains the slightest possibility of continued service. And so the Marine endures, conscious and aware, as the Orks begin the process of transforming his sacred Dreadnought into something that will serve the enemies of mankind. The process of Orkification. What follows over the next period of time, days, or perhaps weeks, is a transformation that would horrify any tech marine or member of the Adeptus Mechanicus who witnessed it. The careful, reverent maintenance protocols that Space Marine dreadnoughts receive are replaced with the enthusiastic butchery of Ork engineering. And yet, impossibly, it works. Zagbolt begins with the locomotion systems, the legs that allow the dreadnought to walk and maintain balance. The damaged Imperial servo systems are removed and examined with intense interest. The mechs can appreciate the precision engineering, the way forces are distributed through the joints, the feedback systems that allow the pilot to maintain balance intuitively. But they also see room for improvement, or at least for Orkification. The replacement leg assemblies are built from salvaged Ork materials. Hydraulic systems from Def Dreads provide the raw power to move the massive weight. Actuators from battle wagons add redundancy and, in typical Ork fashion, significantly more force than strictly necessary. The gyroscopic balance systems are replaced with simpler, cruder equivalents that should not work as well but somehow do, assisted by the subtle psychic field that surrounds the mech workshop. Each new component is tested, adjusted, and frequently rebuilt when it fails to meet Zagbolt's standards. The Big Mech has a vision for this project, and while that vision is crude by Imperial standards, it is no less firmly held. He wants this dreadnought to not just walk, but to stomp with the proper Orky enthusiasm. He wants it to be loud, intimidating, and above all, shooty. The weapon systems receive particular attention. The damaged Imperial weapons are removed entirely, the mounting points studied and then adapted to accommodate Orky equivalents. One arm receives a massive shooter, a heavy caliber weapon that fires with the characteristic lack of precision, but impressive volume of fire that defines Ork marksmanship. The other arm is fitted with a power claw, similar to the Dreadnought's original power fist, but larger, cruder, and decorated with jagged blades and spikes that serve no functional purpose but look properly intimidating. Additional weapons are added wherever mounting points can be created. A rocket launcher is welded to one shoulder. Its ammunition feed a maze of tubes and chains that looks like it should tangle or jam but somehow functions. Big shooters are mounted in various positions, creating overlapping fields of fire. A crude flamer, built from components salvaged from Imperial vehicles, is added for close-range work. The armor receives extensive modification. Ork armor plating, thick slabs of crude metal, is welded over the Imperial ceramite. These additions make the dreadnought heavier and less elegant, but they also add protection, and more importantly from the Ork perspective, they make it look more impressive. Spikes are added liberally, protruding at random angles from every available surface. Jagged blades are welded to the legs and arms, turning the dreadnought into a hazard to anything that gets close. Then comes the paint. In Ork culture, color carries significance that transcends mere aesthetics. Red vehicles go faster because Orks believe they do, and the psychic gestalt field makes this belief reality to some degree. Yellow is associated with wealth and explosions, blue with luck. After much debate and several minor fights, Zagbolt decides on a primarily red color scheme with yellow and black hazard stripes. convinced that this will make the Dreadnought both fast and dangerous. The application of paint is chaotic, performed by Gretchen-wielding spray equipment that covers as much of the surrounding area as it does the Dreadnought. The final result is garish by Imperial standards, a violent collision of colors that hurts to look at. But to Ork eyes, it is magnificent, a proper representation of what a war machine should be. Throughout this process, the sarcophagus remains connected to its Ork-modified life support, the entombed marine kept alive and conscious. The mechs periodically check the monitoring equipment, making adjustments when readings seem wrong, though their understanding of human physiology is limited at best. That the Space Marine survives at all is a testament to the robust design of Dreadnought life support systems, and perhaps to the Emperor's own providence. The Marine himself experiences the transformation in fragments. Without visual sensors, he must piece together what is happening from vibrations, sounds, and the occasional neural feedback. When the Orks activate systems connected to his sarcophagus, he feels new weight distribution as armor is added, senses the different power draw patterns as Ork weapons are connected, experiences moments of disorientation when balance systems are modified or replaced. The psychological impact is profound. This Dreadnought has been his body for decades or centuries. He knows every servo, every weapon system, every plate of armor as intimately as a normal human knows their own limbs. Having it violated and modified by Xenos is a form of torture beyond the merely physical. It is an assault on his identity, his sense of self, everything that defines him as a warrior of the Imperial fists. He tries to maintain his sanity through prayer and meditation, the mental disciplines that all Space Marines master during their training, but which become even more critical for Dreadnought pilots. He recites the oaths of the Imperial fists, reminding himself of his duty to the Emperor and the Primarch. He reviews battle memories, thousands of engagements fought over centuries of service, drawing strength from victories and learning from defeats. But isolation wears on even the strongest mind. Without external stimulation, without the regular sleep cycles that Dreadnought systems normally impose, without human contact or the familiar rituals of his chapter, the Marine feels his grip on sanity beginning to slip. He starts experiencing auditory hallucinations, phantom sounds that might be the voices of long-dead battle brothers, or simply the products of his strained consciousness. Time becomes even more meaningless, moments stretching into apparent hours, while hours compress into instants. The work continues. Zagbolt adds his personal touches, modifications that mark this Dreadnought as his creation. Trophies from previous battles are welded to the armor, skulls of defeated enemies, and fragments of destroyed vehicles. Crude Ork glyphs are painted or carved into the surface, marking this as property of Zagbolt's workshop and warning other Orks against interfering with his project. The power systems receive particular attention. The Dreadnought's original reactor is intact, but has been supplemented with additional Ork power cells, creating a hybrid system that generates significantly more energy than the Imperial design alone. This excess power is necessary to run all the additional weapons and systems that have been added, though it also introduces stability issues that Zagbolt addresses with typical Ork pragmatism, reinforced containment, and the assumption that if it explodes, it will be someone else's problem. Communication systems are added, though these are significantly cruder than the sophisticated Vox equipment the Dreadnought originally possessed. Zagbolt wants this machine to be able to receive orders and coordinate with other Ork units on the battlefield. The systems he installs are loud, prone to static, and require frequent adjustment, but they function well enough for Ork purposes. Finally, after what might be weeks of constant work, interrupted only by occasional fights among the mechs and regular visits from other Orks who want to see Zagbolt's prize, the Orkified Dreadnought is complete. It stands in the workshop, a grotesque parody of its original form, covered in crude armor and brutal weapons, decorated with trophies and painted in garish colors. It is larger than it was, heavier, louder, and objectively uglier. But it is also, in its own horrible way, impressive. Zagbolt circles his creation with obvious pride. noting each modification and explaining to the gathered orcs how each improvement makes the machine more effective. The other mechs offer grudging respect, acknowledging that Zagbolt has created something worthy of recognition. Plans are already forming for how this war machine will be employed, what role it will play in future battles, and how much status Zagbolt will gain from its success. Inside the sarcophagus, the Imperial Fist prepares himself for what comes next. He knows that the Orks will eventually activate the systems, attempting to make this abomination walk and fight. When that happens, he will have choices to make, decisions that could determine not just his own fate, but potentially the outcome of battles yet to be fought. For now, he prays, he remembers, and he waits. The awakening and first tests. The day comes when Zagbolt decides his creation is ready for activation. The entire workshop falls into relative quiet. Dozens of orcs and hundreds of Gretchen gathering to watch as the big mech prepares to bring his masterwork to life. This is a moment of both triumph and risk, and every orc present understands that the next few minutes will either validate Zagbolt's status as a master mech or result in a catastrophic failure that might kill everyone nearby. The big mech approaches the power systems with surprising caution, his augmented hands moving over controls with something approaching delicacy. Primary power is routed from the workshop's generators, massive assemblies that provide energy for dozens of concurrent projects. The Dreadnought's own reactor is brought online slowly, monitored by Gretchen, who read displays that they only partially understand, but know enough to recognize dangerous readings. Inside the sarcophagus, the Imperial Fist feels the change immediately. Systems that have been dormant suddenly surge to life. Power flows through neural pathways that have been inactive, creating sensations that are almost painful in their intensity. For the first time since his capture, he experiences input from external sensors, though the feed is distorted, filtered through Ork modifications that were never designed to interface properly with Space Marine neural implants. What he sees is disorienting. The Ork workshop appears through multiple camera feeds, none of them positioned where his original optical sensors were located. The image quality is poor, filled with static and chromatic aberrations. The color balance is wrong, shifted toward the red end of the spectrum in a way that suggests the Orks used sensors designed for different purposes. But it is sight of a sort, and after the extended sensory deprivation, even this corrupted input is welcome. The Marine attempts to assert control over the Dreadnought systems, reaching out through his neural connections to command motors and actuators. Nothing responds. The Orks have built buffers and control overrides, crude but effective, barriers that prevent him from directly operating his own body. He is a passenger, able to observe but not to act, trapped more completely than ever, despite the return of sensory input. Zagbolt begins running diagnostic tests, checking each system in sequence. The leg motors activate with a grinding whine that speaks of poor lubrication and misaligned components. The Dreadnought lurches forward a step, its balance temporarily lost before gyroscopes compensate. Orks scatter as the massive war machine takes an uncontrolled step, crashing into a workbench and sending tools and parts flying. The big mech bellows orders, and Gretchen scramble to make adjustments. The balance systems are recalibrated, weight distribution is adjusted, and the leg servos are manually tweaked. After several more attempts, each one smoother than the last, the Orkified Dreadnought manages a full walking cycle without falling or damaging anything important. The weapons tests come next. The massive shooter is aimed at a crude target, essentially a wall of scrap metal, set up specifically for this purpose. Zagbolt activates the firing mechanism, and the weapon roars to life with a sound like tearing metal. Shells pour out at an impressive rate, slamming into the target and tearing it apart. The recoil causes the entire Dreadnought to shudder, but the reinforced legs hold position, and the weapon continues firing until Zagbolt cuts power. The power claw is tested against a wrecked vehicle, something that was already damaged beyond repair and can be sacrificed for this purpose. The massive clawed arm swings down with surprising speed, the power field crackling to life around the blades. The impact tears through the vehicle's armor like paper, the claw ripping out chunks of metal and crushing them into scrap. The surrounding orcs roar their approval, already imagining what this weapon could do to enemy vehicles or fortifications. Each weapon system is tested in turn. The rocket launcher fires a single projectile that explodes against a distant target, the blast visible even from the workshop. The flamers spray gouts of burning promethium that turn an area of the workshop floor into a temporary inferno. The big shooters add their distinctive chatter to the cacophony, proving that they can function simultaneously without interfering with each other. Through all of this, the entombed Marine observes, his trained tactical mind automatically assessing capabilities and limitations. The weapons are crude but effective, their lack of precision compensated for by rate of fire and raw destructive power. The locomotion is functional but clumsy, nowhere near the fluid grace of a properly maintained Imperial Dreadnought. The armor is thick but poorly angled, creating shot traps and vulnerable points that a skilled opponent could exploit. More concerning to the Marine is what he observes about the control systems. The Orks have built an entirely separate control interface, one that allows them to direct the Dreadnought's actions without relying on the original pilot. This means they can use him as a weapon against his own brothers, turn his body into a tool of the enemy, and there is absolutely nothing he can do to prevent it. The psychological implications are staggering. Space Marines are conditioned to accept death in service to the Emperor, and Dreadnought pilots have already transcended normal mortality to continue their service. But this fate, being forced to exist as a living weapon in enemy hands, potentially used against fellow Imperial forces, is something beyond the normal parameters of duty and sacrifice. It is a blasphemy, a corruption that strikes at the very heart of everything the Astartes represent. Zagbolt declares the test successful, his bellowing voice carrying over the din of the workshop. The orcified Dreadnought is ready for battle, ready to be deployed with the warband in whatever campaign the warboss has planned. The assembled Orks celebrate in their characteristic way, random shooting into the air, enthusiastic fistfights, and general mayhem that somehow stops short of actually damaging the newly completed war machine. Plans are made for the Dreadnought's deployment. Some Orks suggest using it as a personal guard for the warboss, a walking symbol of Orc superiority over Imperial technology. Others propose forming it into a specialized unit with other captured or looted vehicles, a mob of hybrid war machines that combine the best aspects of multiple technologies. Zagbolt himself advocates for keeping the Dreadnought close to his workshop, using it as both protection and mobile testament to his skills as a mech. While the Orks argue and celebrate, the Imperial Fist uses his restored sensory input to gather intelligence. He observes the workshop's layout, noting entry points, structural weaknesses, and the location of significant equipment. He catalogues the Orks present, identifying which ones appear to be leaders or specialists who might be priority targets if an opportunity arises. He listens to their crude speech, trying to parse meaning from patterns, even though he does not understand their language. Most importantly, he begins probing the control systems that the Orks have installed, testing them with subtle inputs, looking for weaknesses or exploitable flaws. If he can find a way to regain even partial control of his body, he might be able to influence events, sabotage the Dreadnought at a critical moment, or perhaps self-destruct in a way that would take numerous Orks with him. It is a long shot, but it is the only option available to a warrior who refuses to accept helplessness. Living as an Ork war machine. The following period is perhaps the darkest chapter in the Imperial Fist's long service. The orcified Dreadnought is deployed in battle, and the Marine inside is forced to witness atrocities committed with his own body, unable to intervene, unable to resist, a prisoner screaming silently in a metal tomb. That has become his hell. The first battle comes sooner than expected. The Orc warband launches an assault on an Imperial Guard position, one of the countless small engagements that define the eternal war between the Imperium and the Xenos hordes. The Dreadnought is transported to the battlefield in a massive battle wagon, surrounded by Orks who treat the war machine with a mixture of respect and possessive pride. When the battle wagon's assault ramp drops, the Dreadnought strides forth into a scene of absolute chaos. The battlefield is a nightmare of smoke and fire, tracer rounds cutting through the air like lethal stars, explosions throwing up plumes of dirt and debris. The Imperial Guard are dug in behind fortifications, their laser-gun fire creating a constant crackle of energy discharge, their heavy weapons teams targeting Ork vehicles with admirable precision. Zagbolt's voice crackles through the crude communication system, ordering the Dreadnought forward. Ork boys surge around the war machine, using it as mobile cover as they advance toward the Imperial lines. The Marine inside watches through distorted sensors as his body walks toward fellow servants of the Emperor, every step a betrayal that he is powerless to prevent. The order comes to open fire, and the Dreadnought's weapons activate without any input from the pilot. The massive shooter roars, pouring fire into the Imperial fortifications. The entombed Marine experiences the firing as neural feedback, feeling each shot as though he were pulling the trigger, even though his will has nothing to do with the action. He watches as guardsmen die, good and loyal servants of the Emperor cut down by weapons mounted on what was once a Space Marine Dreadnought. The Power Claw is brought to bear against a defensive wall, the massive arm swinging in an arc that ends in devastating impact. Rockcrete and plasteel crumble under the assault, the power field disrupting molecular bonds and turning solid matter into rubble. Guardsmen behind the wall are buried or crushed, their screams barely audible over the general din of combat. Through it all, the Marine prays. He recites every oath he knows, every litany of protection and strength. He begs the Emperor for forgiveness for these sins committed by his body without his consent. He prays for the souls of the guardsmen dying under his guns, hoping that their sacrifice will be recorded in the Golden Throne's eternal memory. And he prays for death, for release from this nightmare, though that mercy continues to elude him. The battle lasts for hours, the Imperial Guard position eventually overrun through sheer weight of numbers and the concentrated firepower of Ork war machines. The Dreadnought emerges from the combat covered in the debris of destroyed fortifications and the blood of fallen defenders. Zagbolt conducts a post-battle inspection, noting damage that needs to be repaired and already planning modifications to improve performance in future engagements. But this is only the first battle. More follow, a seemingly endless succession of engagements against Imperial forces, other Xenos, and occasionally against rival Ork clans when disputes turn violent. Each time, the Dreadnought is deployed, and each time, the Marine inside is forced to witness and participate in atrocities that violate everything he has sworn to uphold. The psychological toll accumulates like poison in the Marine's consciousness. Space Marine conditioning provides significant resistance to mental trauma, and Dreadnought pilots develop additional resilience through their centuries of service. But this situation is beyond anything covered in training or tradition. The Marine finds himself fragmenting, his sense of identity beginning to dissolve under the constant strain. He begins experiencing extended periods where his consciousness seems to disconnect from his body entirely, moments where he observes events as though from a great distance, no longer fully present in the sarcophagus that contains him. These dissociative episodes are both blessing and curse, offering temporary respite from the horror of his situation, while also representing a loss of the coherent self that defines him as a warrior and a servant of the Emperor. During the rare periods when the Dreadnought is back in the workshop for maintenance and repairs, the Marine attempts to cling to his sanity through sheer force of will. He reviews his memories obsessively, going over battles from his previous service, trying to remember the faces of battle brothers long dead, reciting chapter protocols and tactical doctrines to himself. Anything to maintain some continuity of self, to remain the Imperial fist that he was, rather than devolving into a simple biological component of an Ork war machine. The Orks, oblivious to or uncaring about the suffering they cause, continue to modify and improve their captured prize. After particularly successful battles, Zagbolt adds new trophies to the Dreadnought's armor, welding on pieces of destroyed Imperial vehicles or the helms of fallen officers. The war machine becomes a mobile monument to Ork victories, each addition a fresh wound to the Marine's already traumatized psyche. Occasionally, the Dreadnought is deployed against Space Marine forces, and these battles are the absolute nadir of the Marine's existence. He watches through corrupted sensors as his body's weapons are turned against his own battle brothers, sees the distinctive armor of various chapters, hears their Vox transmissions calling out tactical coordinates and battle prayers. He screams silently, trying desperately to warn them, to communicate somehow that the Dreadnought they face contains a loyal son of Dawn, but his voice remains trapped within his sarcophagus. In one particularly horrible engagement, the Dreadnought faces Imperial Fist's Terminators, elite warriors of his own chapter deployed to cleanse an Ork infestation. The Marine recognizes their markings, knows some of the names from his centuries of service. He watches as they advance with the characteristic discipline of the Sons of Dawn, their Stormbolters speaking measured death, their power fists crackling with barely restrained energy. The Orkified Dreadnought opens fire, and a Terminator goes down, his armor breached by the massive shooter's sustained fire. Another falls to the Power Claw, the massive weapon tearing through tactical Dreadnought armor that should have been proof against all but the heaviest weapons. The remaining Terminators call in artillery support, and the Dreadnought is forced to withdraw under withering fire, but the damage is done. The Marine inside has become the instrument of his own brother's deaths. This event represents a breaking point. Something in the Marine's psyche shifts, a fundamental change that goes beyond simple trauma or stress. He stops praying, stops reciting oaths, stops trying to maintain the disciplines that have sustained him. In their place grows something dark and cold, a rage so absolute and consuming that it transcends mere anger and approaches something elemental. If he cannot fight the Orks directly, if he cannot prevent them from using his body as a weapon, then he will find another way to resist. He will survive, not out of duty now, but out of pure spite. He will wait for an opportunity, any opportunity, to strike back at his captors, and when that opportunity comes, he will take it without hesitation, regardless of the cost to himself. This decision provides a new anchor for his fragmenting identity, a purpose that he can cling to even in the darkest moments. He is no longer simply enduring his captivity. He is preparing, planning, waiting for the moment when he can become once again an active participant in his own fate, rather than a passive victim. The Orks remain unaware of this internal transformation. They continue to use the Dreadnought as they always have, deploying it in battle after battle, making modifications and repairs as needed, treating it as a valuable tool, but nothing more. Zagbolt takes increasing pride in his creation, its success in combat validating his skills and elevating his status within the warband. But the Marine inside waits. He observes. He learns the patterns of Ork behavior, the rhythms of the workshop, the procedures for deployment and retrieval. He notes which Orks are most important to operations, which systems are most critical, what vulnerabilities exist in the crude control interfaces. Knowledge is a weapon, and he is gathering an arsenal. The possibility of rescue. While the captured Marine endures his nightmare, the Imperial Fists have not remained idle. The loss of a Dreadnought is not something any Space Marine chapter can accept without response, and for the Sons of Rogel Dawn, it represents a slight upon their honor that demands immediate rectification. The chapter's chaplains and tech Marines review records of the battle where the Dreadnought was lost, analyzing what went wrong and how such a catastrophe could be prevented in the future. The loss of any battle brother is mourned, but the loss of a Dreadnought, one of the chapter's ancient heroes, strikes at something deeper. These warriors have served the Emperor for centuries, their wisdom and experience invaluable, their continued service a sacred trust. More than simply recovering the war machine itself, though the technology is valuable and ancient, the chapter must rescue, or at least recover, the pilot. The entombed Marine remains a living brother, and the Imperial fists do not abandon their own. Even if recovery means ending the Marine's suffering through mercy killing, even if the Dreadnought itself must be destroyed to prevent further desecration, the chapter will see it done. Intelligence gathering begins immediately. Scouts are dispatched to track the Ork warband, to observe their movements and identify their base of operations. These are not the typical scouts of other chapters, but specialized kill teams, veterans who have earned the right to return to more flexible roles. They work in the shadows, gathering information through observation, interrogation of captured Orks, and occasionally through more esoteric means, such as psychic reconnaissance. The reports that filter back paint a grim picture. The Ork warband is large and well-established, occupying a former Imperial facility that they have converted into a ramshackle fortress. The captured Dreadnought has been seen in multiple engagements, its distinctive yellow and black Imperial fists, colors now covered by garish Ork paint, but still identifiable to those who know what to look for. Most concerning, the Dreadnought appears to be functioning effectively under Ork control, suggesting that the pilot may still be alive inside. Chapter Master of the Imperial Fists convenes his captains and senior officers to discuss response options. The consensus is unanimous. They must recover their fallen brother, regardless of the cost. But the specific approach generates significant debate. Some argue for an immediate assault in overwhelming force, simply smashing through the Ork defenses and retrieving the Dreadnought through superior firepower. Others advocate for a more surgical strike, a small team of specialists infiltrating the Ork base to extract the target with minimal combat. The more conservative voices point out the risks. Ork fortifications are chaotic, but surprisingly effective, their randomness making them difficult to analyze and breach systematically. The warband is large enough that even a full company assault would face significant opposition, and there is no guarantee that the Dreadnought's pilot still lives, or if he does, that his sanity has survived the ordeal of capture and forced service to the enemy. But the Imperial Fists are not known for caution in matters of honor. The chapter master makes his decision: a combined operation, a distraction, assault by a full battle company to draw Ork attention and military assets away from their base, while a smaller infiltration team led by elite veterans attempts to locate and extract the captured Dreadnought. It is risky, resource-intensive, and may cost additional lives, but some prices must be paid. Preparations begin immediately. The battle company is assembled, 3 full tactical squads, a Devastator squad to provide heavy fire support, and an assault squad for rapid reaction. Dreadnoughts from the chapter's own arsenal are prepared for deployment, including several venerable Dreadnoughts whose ancient pilots remember the captured warrior from before his internment. The infiltration team is smaller, but no less deadly. Terminator armor is rejected as too loud and obvious for stealth work. Instead, the team is equipped with specialized power armor, fitted with sound bafflers and camellia-line coatings. Their weapons are chosen for reliability and close quarters effectiveness. Bolt pistols, combat knives, and specialized equipment for breaking through both Imperial and Ork security measures. The team's leader is a captain who served alongside the captured warrior decades ago, before the latter's grievous wounding necessitated internment in the Dreadnought. This captain carries a particular burden of duty, feeling responsible for the loss and determined to make amends. His team includes a tech marine specifically trained in Dreadnought systems, capable of performing emergency maintenance or interface procedures if they successfully locate the target. Intelligence updates continue to flow in as the operation is planned. Scouts identify patrol patterns, guard positions, and possible entry points into the Ork base. They note that the captured Dreadnought is kept in a large workshop area when not deployed, surrounded by Ork mech boys, and guarded, but not impossibly so. The window of opportunity exists. it is merely a question of timing and execution. The night before the operation is to launch, the chaplain of the Imperial Fists leads the assembled warriors in prayer. They invoke Rogel Dawn's name, asking the Primarch to guide their efforts and strengthen their resolve. They pray for their captured brother, that he may hold on a little longer, that his faith may sustain him through whatever torments he has endured. And they pray for success, not for their own glory, but for the honor of the chapter and the continued service of a warrior who has given more than any should be asked to give. Inside his orc-modified sarcophagus, hundreds of miles away in the enemy base, the Marine has no knowledge of these preparations. He cannot know that his brothers have not forgotten him, that efforts are being made to secure his rescue. He can only continue his solitary vigil, maintaining his will to resist, waiting for whatever fate the Emperor has prepared. The rescue mission. The attack begins at dawn, the Imperial Fists' preferred time for offensive operations. The farthest battle company strikes at the Orc base's main defenses, a thunderous assault of bolt rounds and heavy weapons fire that announces their presence with unmistakable clarity. Drop pods slam into the ground around the Orc fortifications, their hatches blowing open to release squads of power-armored warriors who advance with the methodical discipline that defines the Imperial Fist's tactical doctrine. The Orcs respond with characteristic enthusiasm, pouring out of their base in a green tide that seems endless. Boys mob together in large units, their crude weapons adding to a wall of fire that would shred lesser troops. Deft Dreads stomp forward, their weapons blazing. Battle wagons rev their engines, preparing to charge into the Imperial lines. The battle quickly escalates into the kind of large-scale engagement that the Orcs live for and that the Imperial Fists excel at managing. While the main assault draws Orc attention and military assets, the infiltration team moves in from an unexpected angle, exploiting a weakness in the base's defenses that scouts identified. They advance through rubble and debris, staying low and moving with practiced stealth. Their armor's chameleon coating shifts, colors to match their surroundings, making them effectively invisible to casual observation. The team encounters their first real obstacle at the base perimeter, a wall of scrap metal and crude fortifications that looks ramshackle but is actually surprisingly sturdy. The Tech Marine steps forward, examining the structure with both his human eyes and the sensors built into his servo harness. He identifies a weak point, a section where different pieces of metal are joined with particularly poor welding. Melter charges are placed with precision, their timers synchronized to create simultaneous breaches. The explosion is loud but localized, creating an opening just large enough for the team to slip through. They move quickly, knowing that stealth is now compromised and speed is their ally. The workshop area where the captured Dreadnought is kept lies deep within the base, requiring them to navigate through passages and chambers that have been modified by years of Orc occupation. They encounter the first Orc patrol in a corridor lined with stolen Imperial equipment. The greenskins barely have time to register the presence of intruders before bolter fire cuts them down. The team moves on immediately, leaving the bodies where they fall. Every second counts, and there is no time for thoroughness. More Orcs appear, drawn by the sound of combat. The team's assault specialist steps forward, his chainsword screaming to life as he tears into the Xenos with brutal efficiency. His brothers provide covering fire, their bolt pistols barking controlled bursts that drop Orcs with practiced accuracy. The Orcs are numerous but disorganized, their response hampered by the confusion of fighting an enemy within their own base. The infiltration team reaches the workshop area, breaching the crude blast doors with melter charges that turn the thick metal into glowing slag. Beyond lies a scene of typical Orc industry, dozens of projects in various states of completion, mech boys working on vehicles and weapons, Gretchen scurrying about with tools and parts. And there, in a place of prominence, stands the captured Dreadnought. The team's leader recognizes it immediately, despite the Orc modifications. The basic shape is still identifiable, the stance that of an Imperial Castroferum pattern, despite the crude armor and weapons that have been added. He orders the tech marine forward, while the rest of the team establishes a defensive perimeter, their bolters tracking the mech boys and workers who are beginning to realize something is wrong. The tech marine approaches the Dreadnought with reverence, despite the urgency of the situation. His augmented eyes scan the modifications, identifying Ork additions and estimating how difficult they will be to remove or work around. His primary concern is the sarcophagus, confirming that the pilot lives and that life support systems remain functional. His instruments detect power draw patterns consistent with active life support, and biological sensors pick up a human life sign within the armored coffin. He activates his Vox, transmitting directly to the sarcophagus using codes that only Imperial Fist's dreadnoughts would recognize. "Brother, this is Tech Marine Galen. We have come for you. Hold on." Inside the sarcophagus, the Marine's consciousness, fragmented and traumatized after so long in captivity, barely comprehends the message. Is this real or another hallucination? Has rescue truly come, or is his damaged mind creating false hope? But then he recognizes the voice, recalls serving alongside Galen decades ago before his internment. This is real. The Emperor has not abandoned him. The Tech Marine begins the process of interface override, attempting to bypass the Ork control systems and restore command to the sarcophagus's original pilot. It is delicate work, made more difficult by the crude but extensive modifications the Orks have implemented. Every system he attempts to access is corrupted or replaced, requiring him to trace power feeds and data connections through mazes of Ork wiring. The workshop erupts into chaos as the mech boys realize what is happening. Zagbolt himself appears, bellowing orders and charging toward the Dreadnought with his massive power claw raised. The defensive perimeter opens fire, bolters and plasma weapons cutting through Orks and Gretchen with ruthless efficiency. But more enemies pour in, drawn by the noise and the obvious importance of what the Imperial Fists are attempting. The team leader makes a critical decision. They cannot extract the entire Dreadnought, not with the time and resources available, but they can potentially extract the sarcophagus itself, separating the pilot from the Ork modifications and denying the enemy their prize even if the war machine itself cannot be recovered. He orders the Tech Marine to proceed with emergency separation protocols. Galen acknowledges and adjusts his approach. Emergency separation is a last resort procedure designed for situations where a Dreadnought has suffered catastrophic damage, but the pilot might still be saved. It involves cutting through mounting brackets and severing connections while maintaining life support, then physically removing the sarcophagus from the chassis. It is dangerous, requires precision under pressure, and has a significant failure rate even under ideal conditions. The Tech Marine's servo arms go to work, cutting through Ork welds and Imperial mounting brackets with equal efficiency. His power-armored hands work controls with surprising delicacy, rerouting power feeds and isolating systems to prevent feedback that could kill the pilot. Around him, his battle brothers fight with desperate intensity, holding back the Ork tide through superior marksmanship and tactical discipline. Inside the sarcophagus, the Marine feels the separation beginning. Connections that have sustained him for so long are being severed, creating sensations that his traumatized consciousness struggles to interpret. He tries to help, using what little control he has retained to shut down non-critical systems, to make Galen's job easier. It is the first active contribution he has made to his own fate in far too long. The battle intensifies. Zagbolt reaches the perimeter and crashes into it like a tidal wave of green muscle and crude metal. His power claw smashes aside a battle brother's defense, the massive weapon tearing through ceramite and the flesh beneath. Other Orks follow, some wielding power weapons looted from Imperial casualties, others simply relying on their brute strength and inhuman durability. The team leader engages Zagbolt directly, his power sword meeting the Ork's claw in a shower of sparks. They trade blows with shocking speed, the Space Marine's superior skill and training matched against the Ork's raw power and augmented strength. Around them, the battle devolves into a vicious melee, bolt pistols used at point-blank range, combat knives finding gaps in crude Ork armor. Galen completes the final connections, the sarcophagus now operating on internal power reserves that will last only a limited time. He activates the extraction mechanisms, and with a hiss of releasing pressure, the armored coffin separates from the Dreadnought chassis. It is smaller than most people realize, barely large enough to contain a human torso and the necessary life support equipment, but it is incredibly heavy, reinforced to protect its precious cargo even in the worst conditions. Two battle brothers move to assist, activating their armor's enhanced strength servos to lift the sarcophagus between them. The tech marine performs a final diagnostic check, confirming that all critical systems remain functional. The pilot lives. The mission's primary objective is achieved. Now comes the extraction, potentially more dangerous than the infiltration. The team must fight their way back out of the Ork base while carrying a burden that limits their mobility and combat effectiveness. The team leader orders a fighting withdrawal, and the Imperial fists begin moving back toward their entry point, maintaining disciplined fire even as they retreat. The running battle that follows is among the most intense combat any of the team members have experienced. Orks pursue from multiple directions, their fury at having their prize stolen driving them to suicidal aggression. The team's assault specialist serves as rearguard, his chainsword and bolt pistol never still, his armor bearing damage from dozens of near misses and glancing hits. They reach the perimeter breach to find more Orks waiting, having circled around to cut off the escape route. The team leader makes another critical decision. They will have to punch through rather than find an alternate route. He orders maximum aggression, and the Imperial fists charge into the waiting Orks with the shocking violence that only Space Marines can deliver. The battle at the breach is apocalyptic in its intensity. Bolt rounds and rocket explosions turn the area into a killing ground. The team leader falls, his armor breached by sustained fire from multiple Ork weapons, but his brothers press on, carrying both the sarcophagus and their fallen commander. One by one, they make it through the breach and into the rubble beyond. The team's pre-positioned extraction point lies half a mile away, requiring them to cross open ground under fire. They move in bounding advance, some providing covering fire, while others advance with the sarcophagus. Ork Def Dreads pursue, their crude weapons churning the ground around the fleeing Space Marines into a moonscape of craters and debris. A Thunderhawk gunship appears, its arrival perfectly timed, strafing the pursuing Orks with its heavy bolters and providing a mobile extraction platform. The team reaches the designated coordinates, and the gunship settles into a hover, its assault ramp lowering. The survivors stumble aboard, carefully securing the sarcophagus while the pilot opens throttles and pulls the aircraft into a steep climb. Ork anti-aircraft fire follows them, rockets and crude missiles arcing through the air, but the Thunderhawk's pilot executes evasive maneuvers that push the aircraft to its design limits. They break free of the engagement zone and level off, heading toward the Imperial Fist's staging area and safety. Inside the Thunderhawk's cargo bay, the tech marine performs an emergency assessment of the sarcophagus and its occupant. Life support remains stable. The pilot shows signs of consciousness, his vital readings indicating awareness, despite the trauma of extraction and transport. But there are concerning indications as well. Neural activity patterns that suggest significant psychological trauma, stress hormone levels that approach toxic, concentrations, and a dozen other metrics that paint a picture of a mind pushed beyond normal endurance. The tech marine activates the sarcophagus's external vox, speaking directly to the pilot within. "Brother, you are safe. We are returning you to the chapter. The enemy cannot harm you now." He doesn't know if the words reach the traumatized warrior's consciousness, but he offers them anyway, hoping that somehow they provide comfort. Back at the Ork base, Zagbolt surveys the aftermath of the raid with fury that approaches madness. His prize is gone, stolen by the same Imperial fists who originally possessed it. The workshop where he lavished so much attention on the captured Dreadnought is a shambles, several of his best mech boys dead or wounded. the orkified Dreadnought chassis remains, stripped of its pilot, but otherwise intact, a monument to failure rather than triumph. Other mechs approach cautiously, aware that Zagbolt's rage makes him even more dangerous than usual. But the big mech is already planning, his primitive but functional mind working through possibilities. The Humies have taken back the pilot, but the chassis remains. Perhaps something can be salvaged, some new project begun, and there will be revenge to take, additional battles to fight. The war continues, as it always does. The aftermath and recovery. The Imperial Fist's apothecarium aboard the Phalanx receives the rescued sarcophagus with solemn ceremony. The facilities here are among the most advanced in the Imperium, capable of treating injuries and conditions that would be beyond the capabilities of most Imperial medical technology. But the apothecaries who gather to assess the rescued warrior know that physical injuries are not their primary concern. The sarcophagus is carefully opened in a sterile environment, revealing the withered form within. The Marine's body has atrophied even beyond the normal level for Dreadnought pilots, suggesting that the Ork life support systems, while effective enough to preserve life, did not maintain optimal conditions. More concerning are the neural interface points, some of which show signs of crude modification or damage from Ork tampering. But the Marine lives. His eyes, when they open, show consciousness and awareness, though what they have witnessed and experienced is impossible to fully know. The attending apothecaries perform their initial assessments with practiced efficiency, checking vital signs and confirming that no immediate interventions are required. The pilot's body remains viable, capable of supporting continued service if a new Dreadnought chassis can be prepared. The psychological assessment begins immediately, though everyone involved understands that this will be a long process. A chaplain of the Imperial Fists arrives, his skull-faced helm left aside to reveal a weathered face marked by countless battles. He speaks to the rescued Marine in low tones, offering prayers and reassurance, trying to establish what level of coherent communication is possible. The responses are fragmented at first. The Marine struggles to articulate experiences that transcend normal language, to convey the horror of being used as a weapon against his own brothers, the helplessness of captivity, the slow erosion of sanity under conditions that no one should endure. The chaplain listens patiently, offering no judgment, simply bearing witness to a brother's suffering. Over the following days and weeks, a clearer picture emerges. The Marine's ordeal has left deep psychological scars, trauma that will require extensive intervention to address. He experiences periods of dissociation where he seems to lose touch with present reality, regressing to moments of his captivity. He shows signs of survivor's guilt, particularly regarding the Imperial Fists Terminators who died in combat against the orkified Dreadnought. He struggles with questions of faith and purpose, wondering if his continued existence serves any useful purpose after such profound violation. But beneath the trauma, the core of the warrior remains. The Imperial Fist who entered the Dreadnought centuries ago, the brother Marine who has served the Emperor through countless battles, has not been destroyed. Damaged, certainly. Changed forever by experiences that no one should endure. But not broken, not utterly lost. The chapter's senior leadership debates the appropriate next steps. Some argue that the Marine should be granted rest, the final piece of death that he has more than earned through his suffering. Others insist that if he can be recovered, if his mind can be healed and his service continued, then that opportunity must be pursued. The decision, ultimately, must come from the Marine himself. The chaplain poses the question with characteristic directness. Brother, you have served the Emperor and the Primarch for more than 2 centuries. You have endured trials that would break lesser warriors. The chapter offers you rest if you desire it, honored death, and a place in memory. But if you wish to continue, if service still calls to you, we will do everything in our power to make that possible. The choice is yours. The Marine considers the question for a long time, reviewing his centuries of service, weighing duty against suffering, honor against personal cost. When he finally responds, his voice is rough from disuse, filtered through life support systems that render it mechanical, but the conviction is unmistakable. I wish to serve, but not in the same way. I cannot face internment again, cannot risk capture and violation. If there is another way, any other way to continue fighting, I will take it. The chaplain nods, having expected this response. He confers with the chapter's tech marines and apothecaries, and together they develop an alternative. The marine's body, while atrophied, retains enough function that with extensive augmentation and rehabilitation, he might be able to serve in a different capacity, not as a Dreadnought pilot, but perhaps as an advisor, a keeper of chapter lore, or even as a modified servitor, if that is what he chooses. The rehabilitation process begins, painful and slow, but showing gradual progress. The Marine relearns how to experience direct sensory input rather than filtered sensor feeds. He practices speech with his own vocal cords rather than synthesized vox systems. He works to rebuild atrophied muscles, understanding that he will never fight as a regular Space Marine again, but determined to regain whatever function is possible. Psychological therapy continues in parallel, the chaplain working to help the Marine process and integrate his traumatic experiences. They discuss duty and sacrifice, the difference between serving and being used, the nature of honor when circumstances deny the possibility of heroic action. Slowly, painfully, the Marine begins to reclaim his identity, to see himself as something other than simply a victim or a weapon. The chapter's librarians also become involved, using their psychic abilities to help heal mental trauma and reinforce positive neural pathways. This is delicate work, as the Marine's mind has been profoundly affected by his experiences, but the librarians are skilled practitioners of their arts. They help establish mental defenses against the recurring nightmares and flashbacks, create anchors to keep him grounded in present reality, rather than slipping into memories of captivity. Months pass, then a year. The Marine makes slow but steady progress, regaining function and stability. He will never be what he was, and the psychological scars will likely never fully heal, but he achieves a level of functionality that allows him to contribute to the chapter in meaningful ways. He is appointed to the chapter council as an advisor, his experiences, however horrible, providing unique insights into Ork psychology and tactics. Other changes ripple through the Imperial fists as a result of this incident. Dreadnought deployment protocols are revised to ensure that ancient warriors are never isolated from supporting infantry in ways that leave them vulnerable to capture. Self-destruct systems are reinforced and made more reliable, ensuring that they will function even under catastrophic damage. And psychological screening is enhanced for Dreadnought pilots, recognizing that mental resilience is as important as tactical knowledge. The Orkified Dreadnought chassis, left behind in the Ork base, eventually returns to haunt the Imperial fists. Zagbolt, unable to accept the loss of his prize, modifies the abandoned chassis further, installing a regular Ork pilot and turning it into a particularly effective Deaf Dread. This abomination is encountered in several subsequent battles, and the Imperial fists make its destruction a priority second only to the elimination of high-value targets. When the corrupted war machine is finally destroyed in a battle several years later, the Imperial fists recover what remains of the chassis. It is brought back to the phalanx with full honors, the desecration it suffered recognized, but not allowed to diminish the service it provided before its capture. The remains are ceremonially interred in the chapter's halls of remembrance, a monument to both triumph and tragedy. The rescued Marine attends the ceremony, his first public appearance since his recovery. He stands before the interred remains of what was once his body, his new augmented form, steady despite the emotions that surely rage within. He speaks a brief eulogy, his voice still carrying traces of the mechanical rasp that characterized his time as a dreadnought. He speaks of service and sacrifice, of duty that extends beyond death, of honor that can survive even the most profound violations. Lessons and reflections. The story of this captured dreadnought and its pilot carries lessons that extend beyond the specific tragedy of one warrior's suffering. It illuminates aspects of the eternal war that defines Warhammer 40,000's setting, the brutal realities that lurk beneath the surface of heroic narratives and glorious victories. First, it demonstrates the true nature of Ork technology and the greenskin threat to the Imperium. The Orks are often dismissed as simple brutes, primitive savages whose only real danger lies in their numbers. But this incident reveals a more complex picture. The Orks possess genuine engineering capabilities, the ability to understand and modify sophisticated Imperial technology, and a pragmatic approach to warfare that includes capturing and repurposing enemy equipment. They are not mindless, not simply targets to be destroyed, but a genuine threat that requires respect and careful tactical planning. The incident also highlights the particular genius and horror of the Dreadnought concept itself. These war machines represent one of the Imperium's most powerful assets, combining the firepower of a battle tank with the tactical intelligence of an experienced space marine. But they also represent a form of existential horror, warriors denied the peace of death and forced into a twilight existence that borders on living death. The capture by Orks simply takes this horror to its logical extreme, adding violation and helplessness to an already deeply troubling situation. For the Imperial Fists specifically, this incident becomes a defining moment in their modern history. It tests their commitment to their brothers, validates their willingness to pay any price to honor their oaths, and ultimately reinforces the values that define the Sons of Rogel Dawn. The rescue mission, whatever its tactical merits, sends a message. The Imperial Fists do not abandon their own, no matter the cost, no matter the odds. The psychological aftermath also reveals something about the Space Marines that official Imperial propaganda often obscures. These warriors are not simply emotionless killing machines, not robots who follow orders without question or concern. They are humans, enhanced and conditioned certainly, but still capable of suffering, still vulnerable to trauma. The Marine's long recovery process, his struggle to maintain sanity and identity, his ultimate choice to continue serving despite everything he has endured, all speak to a humanity that persists even in the most extreme circumstances. The fate that befell this particular warrior is rare, but not unique in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Other chapters have lost dreadnoughts to various enemies, have faced the nightmare of seeing their ancient heroes corrupted or destroyed or simply lost. The Imperium's eternal war against chaos, xenos, and internal threats creates countless opportunities for tragedy, and dreadnoughts, for all their power, are not immune. Some captured dreadnoughts face fates even worse than Ork captivity. Chaos Space Marines who capture loyal dreadnoughts may corrupt their pilots, exposing them to warp energies that twist both mind and machine into something unrecognizable. Dark Eldar who capture such war machines might use the pilots as subjects for their twisted experiments, prolonging suffering beyond anything the Orks could imagine. Tyranids simply consume everything, reducing both pilot and machine to raw biomass. But the Ork capture carries its own particular horror, precisely because it is so mundane, so pragmatic. The Orks don't torture the Marine out of sadism or religious fervor. They don't try to corrupt him or break his will. They simply use him, treat him as a component in a machine, deny him agency while forcing him to participate in actions that violate everything he holds sacred. It is a violation that operates on psychological and spiritual levels that physical torture might not reach. The broader implications for Imperial doctrine are significant. If dreadnoughts can be captured and repurposed by even relatively primitive foes like the Orks, what does that mean for their deployment? Should chapters be more conservative in committing their ancient warriors to battle? Should additional safeguards be built into the machines to prevent capture or ensure destruction if capture seems imminent? These are questions that the Adeptus Astartes must grapple with, balancing the value of these powerful weapons against the risk of losing them to the enemy. There is also a theological dimension to consider. The Imperial cult teaches that service to the Emperor is the highest calling, that sacrifice in his name is always honored. But what happens when service becomes suffering without purpose, when sacrifice is not a glorious death, but a prolonged nightmare? The rescued Marine's struggle with questions of faith reflects a larger tension within Imperial doctrine, the gap between the ideal and the reality of serving a god-emperor who may not intervene to prevent the worst horrors. For the Orks, the incident reinforces their own cultural values. Zagbolt's ability to capture and modify the Dreadnought, even if he ultimately lost the pilot, elevates his status within the warband. The knowledge gained from working on sophisticated Imperial technology spreads through the mechboy community, potentially improving future Ork war machines. And the simple fact of the capture, the demonstration that even Space Marine dreadnoughts can be overwhelmed and taken, emboldens the greenskins in future engagements. The cycle continues, as it always does in the setting of Warhammer 40,000. The war never ends, the suffering never stops, and heroes and villains alike are ground down by the relentless machinery of eternal conflict. The rescued Marine returns to service in a different capacity, his experience informing the chapter's future tactics and protocols. The Orks continue their endless wargs, always hungry for the next fight, the next prize, the next opportunity to prove their superiority through force. Conclusion. The tale of what happens when Orks capture an Imperial Fist's Dreadnought is one of the darker stories in a setting already defined by unrelenting grimness. It takes the heroic narrative of the Space Marines, warriors who know no fear and serve beyond death, and reveals the nightmare that lurks beneath. It shows that there are indeed fates worse than death, that service to the Emperor can demand prices that strain the limits of human endurance, and that even the mightiest warriors can be reduced to helpless victims by the right combination of circumstances. But it is also a story of resilience, of a warrior who refuses to break even when breaking would be understandable, of a chapter that honors its oaths regardless of cost, and of duty that transcends personal suffering. The rescued Marine's choice to continue serving, to find new ways to contribute even after experiences that would have destroyed lesser beings, speaks to the extraordinary nature of the Space Marines and the Imperial Fists in particular. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But there is also duty, honor, brotherhood, and the stubborn refusal to surrender to despair even in the darkest moments. These qualities do not make the suffering less, do not erase the horror of what was endured, but they provide meaning and purpose that allow continued service. The captured Dreadnought story will be remembered in the Imperial Fist's halls, another chapter in the long history of the Sons of Rogel Dawn. It will be studied by future generations of battle brothers, analyzed for its tactical lessons and its insights into Ork capabilities. It will serve as a cautionary tale and as an inspiration, a reminder that even the worst situations can be survived, that rescue is possible, and that the bond between Space Marines transcends any violation that enemies might inflict. And somewhere in the galaxy, in countless workshops and battlefields, other dreadnoughts continue their service, ancient warriors who have already transcended normal lifespans to continue fighting for the Emperor. They are walking testaments to duty and sacrifice, living weapons that embody 10,000 years of Space Marine tradition. Some will fall in glorious battle, their pilots finally granted the rest they have earned. Some will continue serving for centuries or millennia more, witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations while they maintain their eternal vigil. And some, inevitably, will face capture by enemies who recognize their value as prizes. The war continues, the cycle repeats, and new horrors await. But so too does continued service, continued resistance, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat that defines the Imperium of man in its darkest hour. If you found this deep dive into the fate of a captured dreadnought fascinating, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We explore the darkest corners of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, examining the stories that official sources often gloss over, the tragedies and horrors that make this setting so compelling. Join us as we continue to uncover the grim reality behind the glorious propaganda, one story at a time. The Emperor protects, but knowledge is its own kind of armor. Until next time.